One day, I remember walking into the office and telling my NCOIC I had at the time, if I don't come back this afternoon, I'm gone. And it's not because I've left. I'm about to die.
There are many people who think if you have suicidal thoughts and you tell anybody about it, it's the end of your career, which is simply not true.
You've got to let soldiers have an outlet where they can dialogue and talk about what it is they've done and what it is they've been through. If they carry the slightest bit of shame or guilt or fear or anxiety from what they did or experienced, and they don't have an opportunity to talk about that with someone, then it's just going to bottle up and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Because it's not about us, it's about those subordinate soldiers that we have. I owe them everything.
I've seen numerous times now that personnel have actually come forward, said they need help, have actually been returned to duty, and they're able to move on with their lives.
If it wasn't for that supervisor who didn't have any suicide prevention training, he was simply watching his soldier. I didn't look right to him when I walked into that door, and he had been noticing signs. I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today, I'd be dead.
I was a mortuary affairs, my first tour. I didn't know what to expect. The injuries are just horrific.
A young kid, 19 years old, 3-4 years younger than Joe, had died. And Joe had, just helped pick this young man up, and he was actually in too many pieces and had to be picked up and put in a bag, and Joe did that. There was a lot of denial of stuffing that down so that he didn't have to deal with it. He was having more and more nightmares, waking up in cold sweats, waking up screaming, and the only answer for him was to take himself out of that pain, and that's what he did.
When I got home after my tour, I was very angry. Like most of us soldiers, we think, we're home, it's over. And actually, it's just the beginning.
He was really depressed. And he would tell me, he's like, Yesenia, I've never felt this bad before. And he's like, I don't know how to describe it other than it feels like your heart is always breaking.
At one point or another, we tend to think of ourselves as a victim. I myself, I had cancer once. I was depressed. I was focused on everything I was losing. But I still have a wife and daughter. If you only focus on what you've lost, you are a victim. I now realized that I had something to live for.
In 2007, I started having some health issues, and we couldn't figure out what they were. That's not really something you want to be going through when you're going through a divorce, especially when, you really honestly were in love. New Year's Day of 2008, I spent the entire day drinking. So I started looking around the house for something to hang myself with.
Nobody's suicidal all the time. I can't express this enough. There are people who reach a low point in their life, and if you can get them through that point, they often are not suicidal anymore.
We stood together and joked in the hangar that night about everything under the sun. So he probably got home around 1 o'clock that next morning. And at about 7 o'clock that same morning, I got a phone call and was told that he had shot himself in the head sitting in his living room. This is a super trooper major who I had just been with 5 or 6 hours prior, and I didn't have a clue.
In the Guard, because you don't see your soldiers all the time like you do on active duty, they have their civilian job, you have your civilian job, you each have families. It's hard to kind of make time for the phone calls and the check-ins that you would normally do when you're on active duty, when you see them every day.
We came into drill December 2009, and the announcement was made that he had killed his girlfriend and then killed himself. We were processing him out of the Army for doing drugs. Yes, we're kicking this guy out of the Army, so you kind of expect him to be a little, mad and in a bad mood and that kind of thing. But
why didn't we ask why? Why didn't we find out why this was going on? Why didn't we, try to help him, try to just be more involved in the reason behind why he was doing it? Because
if somebody's, they've gone to the trouble, they joined the Army, met the standard, they've finished basic training and their AIT and all that kind of thing, and now they're at their unit and, now they're a bad soldier. It's like, well, what happened? What's going on that is making them, not put in the effort to at least meet the standard?
You don't ever want to have to relearn those lessons another time. That was the motivation for me when I became a battalion commander and was charged with the lives of 600 young men, that I was going to do everything I could to make sure that we had leaders who knew what to look out for.
We need to continue to embrace our arms around our soldiers and let them know that we're there for them.
And it changed me as a man, just in terms of slowing down long enough to care a little more and talk to people a little bit more.
There's no one like a mom and a dad to share the things of their child. And it breaks my heart that I have no one to share this with. I mean, look at our daughter. Look what our daughter is doing. No one's going to replace him for her. And it breaks my heart. I think not even him leaving me so much, but leaving her just breaks my heart, and I hate him for it.
We had one soldier that killed himself in the Founding Kingsley Memorial. And as his mother stood in front of his photograph, I just sat there and watched the pain that woman went through. And, it bothered me as a parent.
I think it's okay to yell, kick, scream, curse, be mad at them. But I think it had to come to a point where I had to forgive and live. I had to live for myself.
I think most of the time you can simply just save somebody's life by talking to them, or being the intervener, or being the control before they commit the act.
He sent me a text message that just said, tell Teresa I love her. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And I texted him back, and I didn't get anything for like a good 15, 20 minutes. So I called 911. I explained what's going on. And when they went up, they said they found a whole bottle of sleeping pills pretty much scattered on the table. And he was like trying to eat them when they kicked in the door.
We're not just going to concentrate on the soldier. We need to concentrate on the family. And whether it's a soldier, whether it's the spouse, whether it's the children, we have a genuine concern and care for the entire family.
I have actually had razor blades to my skin, ready to just end it. And one of the kids had knocked on the bathroom door. And I can't do this. I can't leave my kids alone. I can't leave my husband with these kids. They'll run him over. I couldn't do it. But I knew that I couldn't live with the pain anymore.
It felt like someone took a baseball bat from my knee, through my thigh, into my groin. And your body tells you things, you need to listen. I wasn't listening at all. We've always been instructed, you ignore the pain and you play through it. I also was given a bag of medication, Roxicet for breakthrough pain and OxyContin. And they say take as needed. The real problem was that the more severe the pain was, the more I took. My wife had had conversations with this physician's assistant / nurse. They both basically saved my life because they saw in me things that I didn't realize. I was fortunate enough to have people around me that, one, cared for me and loved me and took care of me, and also could speak to me when nobody else could, and to tell me what was going on that I didn't realize and see.
But sometimes drugs are wonderful things for people. They can really help in some situations. And when you combine medication, counseling, and education together, you've got a real powerful tool available to you.
Those vegetative signs that go along with depression are also part of anxiety. And I just remember that after being on the medication, that anxiety went away.
We can't let the soldiers and families struggle with this independently. And we can't let our hired professionals alone help fix them. The leaders have got to be bought in to the fact that it's okay to say, hey, I'm not okay. and to be able to give soldiers the opportunity to go and get help if that's in fact how they're feeling.
My first sergeant and my supervisor shared with me that they've been through experiences with finances. They've had security clearance issues, so they understood. They understand. We're going to challenge you to do the right thing, but we're letting you know we've been there too, and they did.
You know, you really do have to care about that person and that soldier team that you're dealing with. And even if they mess up, you have to be that hand that, you know, reaches down and pulls them back up for a little bit, let them tread water again.
It's not our job to make these guys communicate with us. We've got to find a way at this level to communicate with them. I Facebook. I'm 48 years old and I Facebook.
The communication, connecting with your soldiers and just taking the time out to be there, to listen, it makes a big difference.
You know, as a senior leader or as a junior leader, it's my responsibility to earn your loyalty as a subordinate. And I think that plays heavily into what's your relationship with the people you lead, and how do you make the connection between the people you lead and yourself.
If I'm in trouble, I don't get help, then how can I lead my soldiers? How can I tell them, you need to get help, and I need to get help myself?
If you're on an airplane, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on your children. So folks really need to take that to heart and recognize when there are things going on with them that are not what they expect of themselves as a spouse, as a soldier, as a parent.
When I finally got to the right doctor, they looked at my MRI. He walked in and he said, "How are you walking?" I had a tumor the size of my hand that was wrapped around my femur neck and my femur head, and had compressed the bone to the point that over a third of it was destroyed. Amazingly enough, my stubbornness and the fact that I was going to survive this and I wasn't going to end it anymore. Someone finally listened.
I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about what to do when I need help. I've learned how to recognize when I do fall into those situations where I need to talk to someone, and I'm not ashamed to do it.
You gotta beat through it. There's always something to do to keep you actively engaged and, you know, keep your mind off the bad things in life. Because for as many bad things as there are, there's just as many good things. You just gotta find it. It's not easy. You're not gonna find it sitting around. You know, get up and go do something.
Initiative has a lot to do with resiliency. If you're waiting for life to come to you, you'll be waiting a long time.
Running, exercising, extracurricular activities have always been my break. No matter what was going on around me, always made me feel better.
Everything from physical fitness to, we now have talks about spiritual resiliency and behavioral health resiliency, and how do you get there?
When you write everything down, you're kind of like, you're bringing things up to the surface.
Take 10 minutes right before you go to bed. You get a notepad and you start jotting down positive things that you have dealt with or experienced that day.
You know, a lot of times we're so focused into negativity. You know, they call, you know, and when you hunt the good stuff, it counteracts negativity bias.
We literally begin changing the way we think because you're searching for the positive. And you find yourself throughout the day looking for positive things to happen.
We're going to have adversity. That's not going to change. We just need to be able to deal with and overcome, you know, life challenges.
It's not just the ability to get through a difficult time, but it's to learn from it and to be better the next time you go through that type of difficult time. That's what makes you resilient.
Somewhere inside of you, there is the ability to bounce back.
It's amazing the things I've been through and have fallen down rock bottom and pulled myself up, and it's been rough, but here I am.
Resilience isn't just left to the individual soldier or family member to figure out for themselves. If we can create a larger network of people who are trying to look out for the resilience of each other.
Asking our employees, our soldiers, airmen, sailors, what do you need? When do you need your time? Who do you need to talk to? It's not just about, are you going to get grief therapy once a week? It's bigger than that.
When it comes down to the mud and the grit and wherever we're at in the world, all we have is each other. So we need to take care of each other.
It's important that we message to our civilian workforce all the time that their sacrifices and their contributions and the hard work that they're doing for us is just as important and just as appreciated.
These guys have a lot of life ahead of them. They need to heal. And I think as a parent, I want them to heal so that they can go on and live productive lives.
And it's that fact that we can show them that there is hope, there is a path, there's a way to get to what you want to get to. And that's where we can, make our soldiers better soldiers. I mean, just bottom line.
We have to design an army that's not built on a now generation, that's built on a generation that cares. And when we start showing our soldiers that we care for them because of who they are, the rest is easy.